The rain had stopped just before Sarah Mitchell pulled into her driveway, leaving the street shiny and quiet under the yellow glow of streetlights. The birthday party had ended an hour ago, but the sounds of it still rang in her ears, soft jazz. Music, clinking glasses, polite laughter. It had been nice. Too nice. The kind of evening that looked good from the outside but felt hollow once it was over. She sat in the car for a moment, hands resting on the steering wheel, breathing slowly. 46. That was the number everyone kept saying, smiling like it meant something special. She turned off the engine and stepped out, feeling the cool air brush her face. The house stood in front of her, calm and dark, as if it had been waiting. Inside, the silence wrapped around her. No voices, no television. No footsteps from the stairs. Sarah slipped off her coat and shoes and placed her purse on the small table by the door. Her feet moved through the house out of habit, flipping on a lamp, straightening a cushion that didn't need fixing. This was how she handled quiet, by staying busy. She passed the kitchen and paused. A smell stopped her. Coffee. Fresh coffee that made no sense. She hadn't brewed any that morning. She walked closer, scanning the counter. The coffee maker was clean, the pot empty. Still, the smell lingered, warm and familiar, pulling at something deep in her chest. She turned toward the living room. That was when she saw the gift bag. It sat neatly on the coffee table. Dark blue with silver tissue paper. It looked carefully placed, not tossed or rushed. A small white tag was tied to the handle. Mom, her breath slowed. She hadn't expected a gift. Ethan had already called earlier in the day, his voice bright and rushed, apologizing for not being there. He was busy with finals, he said. He promised to visit soon. Sarah slowly sat down on the couch. For a moment, she just stared at the bag, as if it might disappear. Her hands felt heavy as she reached for it. Inside was a picture frame she recognized. The photo instantly. It was old, taken on a summer trip years ago. She and Ethan stood at the edge of a wooden dock, water stretching out behind them. Ethan was small then, missing a tooth, his smile wide and careless. Sarah stood beside him laughing, her arm wrapped around his shoulders. She remembered that day clearly, the sun, the breeze, the feeling that life was full and safe. Her eyes. Burned behind the frame was an envelope. She opened it carefully, smoothing the paper as if it might tear. Ethan's handwriting filled the page, uneven but familiar. She began to read. He wrote about noticing things, about how she always said she was fine, even when the house felt too quiet, about how she never talked about her own days anymore, only asked about his Pete. He wrote that he remembered how she used to sing while cooking, how she laughed louder back then. Sarah swallowed. The words weren't dramatic. They were simple and honest. He told her he was proud of her, but worried too. He told her she didn't have to carry everything alone. At the bottom of the letter was one line that made her heart skip. Please check your phone. I hope you won't be mad. She stared at this sentence for a long moment. Mad wasn't what? She felt confused, maybe curious, a little afraid. She reached for her phone. There was a new message. A video. Sarah hesitated, then pressed play. Ethan appeared on the screen, sitting on his bed. The room behind him was messy. Books stacked on the floor, clothes draped over a chair. He smiled, but there was something careful in his expression. He started talking, not rushing, choosing his words. He spoke about love, not the kind from movies, but the quiet kind, the kind that shows up every day. He talked about his father, about how he remembered the way his parents used to look at each other, how the house had felt different than Sarah felt her chest tighten. Ethan said he knew she missed that life. He said he saw how she avoided talking about the future. She stayed busy so she wouldn't have to feel lonely. He said he understood grief more than she thought. Then the screen changed. Another man appeared. He was sitting in a well-lit room, a bookshelf behind him. His hair was touched with gray, his face calm. Introduced himself as Daniel Harper. Sarah froze. She knew that name. Danielle spoke slowly, respectfully. He said he had known her husband years ago. that they had worked together once, shared long conversations over coffee. He said after the funeral, he had wanted to reach out but didn't know how. He didn't want to reopen wounds. Sarah's fingers tightened around the phone. Daniel explained that Ethan had contacted him months ago, that they had talked, that Ethan believed his mother deserved more than silence. Daniel said he didn't expect anything. He only wanted to say hello, to let her know she wasn't forgotten. The video ended with Ethan again. "Mom," he said softly, "you taught me what love looks like. I just don't want you to forget it." The screen went dark. Sarah sat there, stunned. Her heart raced, then slowed. Emotions moved through her in waves: shock, sadness, warmth, fear. She felt exposed, as if someone had gently opened a door she had kept locked for years. She set the phone down and leaned back against the couch, staring at the ceiling. Memories surfaced without warning. Late nights talking with her husband. The way he used to squeeze her hand when words weren't enough. The empty space left behind. She had told herself she was fine, that this was just how life moved forward. But maybe she had been standing still. The house felt different now. Not quieter, but fuller. As if something had shifted. She stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the street was empty. A light breeze moved the trees. The world hadn't changed. But she had. For the first time in years, Sarah allowed herself to imagine something new. Not a replacement, not an escape. Just a step forward. Her phone buzzed softly. A new message. It was from an unknown number. "Hi, Sarah. This is Daniel. No pressure. Just wanted to say happy birthday." She stared at the message. The silence in the house no longer felt heavy. It felt like a pause before something else. Sarah didn't reply right away. She walked back to the couch, picked up the photo frame, and held it close. Her reflection stared back at her from the glass. Older, tired, still there, still capable of feeling, still alive. And as the night stretched on, Sarah realized this birthday had given her something she hadn't expected. Not closure, but possibility. Sarah Mitchell woke the next morning with a heaviness in her chest she didn't expect. The house was quiet, but now it didn't feel empty. It felt charged, full of thoughts she had ignored for too long. The video from Ethan replayed in her mind. His words, so simple, yet so intentional, had left her heart unsettled in the best way. She moved through her morning routine slowly, almost absent-mindedly. Coffee brewed, toast browned, dishes washed, but nothing felt routine anymore. Everything seemed sharper, brighter, more important. Even the smell of fresh coffee carried a new weight, a reminder of her son's thoughtfulness. Her phone buzzed with a message from Daniel Harper. The message was careful, polite, short. "If you feel like talking, maybe we can meet for coffee this week. No rush, only when you're ready." Sarah stared at the words for a long moment, her fingers lingering. Over the screen, a part of her hesitated. Another part wanted to respond immediately, to say yes, to step into something unknown. The curiosity and something softer hope pulled her forward. She found herself at the cafe later that morning. The sky outside was pale and clear, winter lights sliding across the tables. Daniel was already there, sitting with a small cup of black coffee, simple and neat, a book closed in front of him. When he looked up and smiled, it wasn't the smile of a stranger. It was warm, careful, as if he had practiced this meeting in his head. Sarah returned the smile, shyly at first, then with something deeper as she sat down. Their conversation began cautiously, polite. Daniel asked about her birthday, about Ethan, about life in general. Sarah noticed that he didn't ask the questions people usually ask, those that made her feel judged or awkward. Instead, he listened. He remembered details she had mentioned years ago. He recalled small things, like her favorite kind of tea, the stories she told Ethan at bedtime, the way she laughed at movies she pretended to dislike. His attention was gentle but intentional. It made her feel seen in a way she hadn't felt in a long time. As the conversation deepened, the cafe noises faded for Sarah. The clatter of cups, the quiet chatter of strangers, the soft music, they became background to the quiet rhythm between them. Daniel spoke of his own life carefully, not to overwhelm her, not to compete with her grief, but to share pieces of himself. He told her about the trips he had taken with his late wife, the quiet moments he cherished, the memories that remained. Sarah found herself opening up too, sharing stories she hadn't spoken aloud in years, memories that had been tucked away. The grief was still there, but it was no longer a wall. It was a bridge, connecting her past with the possibility of a future she hadn't dared to imagine. Hours passed faster than Sarah expected. When they finally stepped outside, the air had cooled. Winter had settled in, sharp and crisp, but it no longer felt biting. The conversation had carried warmth that lingered even as they parted. Daniel walked her to her car, and as they reached it, he hesitated for a moment, then said softly, "I hope we can do this again. No rush, just if you'd like." Sarah nodded, a lump in her throat, realizing she wanted it more than she expected. She promised herself she would say yes, back. At home, Sarah found Ethan waiting, sitting on the couch with a grin. "So," he asked, eyes bright, "did you check it out?" She smiled, feeling warmth spread through her chest. "I did," she said softly. Ethan watched her for a long moment, then leaned back, satisfied. "I just wanted you to know. You deserve more than quiet walls and empty nights. You've always been the one holding everything together. Maybe it's time someone holds a piece of it with you." Sarah felt tears prick the edges of her eyes. Her son, her child, had somehow seen what she had kept hidden from herself, had reached into her heart and nudged it open. Over the next weeks, small things began to change. Daniel called, inviting her to join him for walks, small dinners, and quiet moments at the park. Nothing was rushed, nothing forced. Every interaction was measured, respectful, yet full of gentle warmth. Sarah noticed herself laughing more freely, speaking without restraint, noticing the beauty in small, ordinary moments. She felt alive in a way she hadn't in years. She even began to notice herself looking forward to the future, not in an abstract sense, but with real anticipation. Ethan continued to be a quiet force in the background, always watching, always supportive. He never pressured her, never made her feel that she owed him anything. He simply shared pieces of insight, reminders that she was worthy of joy, worthy of love, worthy of moments that weren't just surviving. Each time she thought of him, she felt a wave of gratitude so strong it left her lightheaded. He had given her a gift she hadn't realized she had been craving. One afternoon, as snow began to fall outside her window, Daniel stopped by unexpectedly with a small package. Inside was a framed photograph of a lake at sunset, peaceful, golden, familiar. "I thought you might like it," he said, his eyes meeting hers. The gesture was simple, but the meaning behind it struck her deeply. He had remembered something. She had loved a detail from years past and had carried it forward as a gift. Sarah felt her heart swell with something quiet, strong, and real. That evening, she sat alone, holding the photograph, thinking about the chain of events that had brought her to this moment: the birthday party, the quiet house, Ethan's letter, Daniel's message. They all connected in ways she hadn't expected. She realized that love didn't always arrive with fireworks or grand gestures. Sometimes it arrived softly through the careful observation of those who cared, through gestures meant to see you, truly see you, and through choices made out of respect and patience. Sarah picked up her phone and called Daniel. He answered immediately, voice warm, familiar. "Hi," she said softly. I wanted to thank you." He smiled, though she couldn't see it, and replied, "For what? For noticing me? For being patient? For everything," she said. They talked for hours, laughter threading through the conversation. Weaving a new rhythm into her life, weeks turned into months. Sarah and Daniel continued to see each other, slowly, deliberately, learning the contours of one another's hearts. Their relationship was gentle but deep, filled with moments of shared memory, quiet affection, and growing trust. Every time she thought about Ethan, she felt a swell of gratitude. He had seen her need for connection, her loneliness, and had orchestrated a bridge to something she hadn't dared to seek on her own. Then, one evening, Daniel took her for a walk along a quiet street lined with winter lights. Snowflakes drifted, lazily melting against the warm glow of street lamps. He stopped and looked at her, eyes searching, gentle. "Sarah," he said, "you've given me a chance I never expected. I just want to keep walking beside you, if you'll let me." Sarah's heart thumped. She smiled, a genuine smile that reached her eyes, and nodded. She felt the weight of the past fall away slightly, leaving room for possibility. She had grieved, she had waited, and now she was ready to embrace the life she hadn't known she still wanted. That night, back at home, Sarah sat by the window with the snow falling outside. She thought about the birthday party, the letter, the video. She thought about the quiet moments that had become the beginning of something more. Her heart was full, not just with love for Daniel, but with pride in Ethan, who had reminded her that life didn't end with loss, that love didn't have an expiration date. For the first time in years, she felt whole. The quiet of her house no longer seemed empty, it seemed alive with possibility, with hope, with the knowledge that sometimes the bravest things come from unexpected places. Her son had given her the courage to open her heart. Daniel had given her the chance to love again. And she, Sarah Mitchell, had found the strength to say yes to life, yes to love. Yes to the unexpected beauty that had been waiting patiently all along, as the snow drifted silently past the window. Sarah smiled softly, letting the warmth of the moment settle in her chest. She knew that the journey wasn't over. There would be more challenges, more uncertainty, more moments of fear. But she also knew that she would face them with an open heart, guided by the love she had rediscovered, love from her son. Love from a man who respected her, and love she had finally remembered for herself. For the first time in years, she felt ready to truly live again. The quiet of the house was no longer something to endure, it was something to cherish. It was the space in which love, hope, and second chances could grow. And Sarah realized, with a clarity that brought tears to her eyes, that coming home from that birthday party had not just changed one night. It had changed her life forever.